So shortly after the 9/11 attacks, everybody wanted to know who Osama bin Laden was, right? Well, NBC News and Tom Brokaw did a little special about who is bin Laden, right? It's not like, bin Laden's been telling you who the fuck he was for the last fucking 6 years, right? So let's have fun. There's actually some rare video of bin Laden here. That's why I'm playing it.
NBC News in depth tonight, a special investigation. He may be the most dangerous man in the world with a personal fortune in the hundreds of millions of dollars. He commands a business empire dedicated to.
He didn't have hundreds of millions of dollars because in 1996, the family had absconded him from any type of royalties afforded to him through the Bin Laden Saudi Group, which is the company his father owned, Mohammed. Once they found out that he was involved and engaging with Al Qaeda and terrorism and created his first fatwa against the United States military. Then, after the East Africa bombings, he was finally persona non grata in Saudi Arabia, but also he was no longer receiving any type of funding for the Saudi bin Laden group.
Terrorism. And ironically, in the 80s, he sided with the U.S. in the war in Afghanistan with money and supplies from the CIA. But now.
Wait a minute, that's not necessarily true either. He didn't side with the United States. In fact, in Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri's book, Knights Under the Prophet's Banner, which is in Arabic, but translated to English if you want to find it online, bin Laden grudgingly accepted U.S. money, but he said he never took it directly. In fact, he didn't want to deal with any American NGOs meaning non-government organizations. So they went through the Pakistan ISI to fund the Afghan Arabs in their fight against the communists in Afghanistan. But once the Soviets had left Afghanistan, the United States was no longer actively involved in the funding of the Mujahideen and left the communist Arab regimes under Bunurahim Rabbani to fight against the warring factions like Gulbuddin Hekmatyar and Abdul Rasul Sayyaf, and of course the Northern Alliance. And then two civil wars broke out, which killed more people than the 10 years prior with the Soviet Union. So it's neither here nor there. But nevertheless, bin Laden never received any direct funding. He grudgingly accepted some of it, but it was through the Pakistan ISI.
The U.S. and its allies are his prime targets. The CIA is hunting him. Our in-depth investigation tonight from NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
The primary target.
This is the new face of terror, Osama bin Laden, the 39-year-old renegade son of a Saudi billionaire, an Islamic fundamentalist, elusive, mysterious, and now wanted worldwide.
Servicemen, businessmen, tourists.
Let's say this guy's more dangerous.
Who is a threat to Americans throughout the world.
NBC News has learned bin Laden is suspected of playing a key role in both the World Trade Center bombing and the 2 bombings of American servicemen in Saudi Arabia. Appearances are.
I mean, it had nothing to do with the '93 bombing. In fact, that was Ramzi Youssef, and he never met Ramzi Youssef. It was a wire transfer from college Sheikh Mohammed. That's how the FBI found out through Frank Pellegrino of $5,000 to one of the '93 bomber plotters, Mohammed Saleh, who's currently doing 246 years.
Receiving. This guerrilla warrior operates like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, funding and supporting violence against the West and its allies. Call it Terror Inc. Private jets, Swiss bank accounts. He gives orders via the internet. As good a capitalist as he is a terrorist.
He has over $300 million, people say. But it isn't just that. He's very capable of raising more wealth and more funds.
Described as charismatic, a natural leader, bin Laden is said to control 400 followers. Now back in Afghanistan, where ironically the CIA once armed him to fight the Soviets. But now his holy war is against the Saudi monarchy and the United States. To him, they are the chief enemies of Islam. How does he recruit? By investing millions to improve conditions in terrorist states like Sudan.
Well, it's true to an extent. After the '98 East Africa bombings, recruitment jumped up because he saw that by attacking the United States and the West directly and their embassies, that he wasn't afraid of the United States. Wow, he wasn't afraid of the superpower of the United States? Who is this guy? And especially after the Oil for Food program in 1990 in Iraq, which killed over 500,000 people, mostly men, women, sick men, women, and children, the West was seen as the oppressors, especially in their regards of their ignorance or their allowing for Israel to subjugate the Palestinians as well. And of course, the United States not getting involved in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where you saw some of the worst war crimes against Muslims under, I forgot that guy's name, Branko. I forgot that guy's name. Shit. Yeah, I think he's doing life, or is he dead in prison, right, for his involvement? Branko Marcitic or something like that. Don't quote me, I forgot his name. But yeah, this was all a buildup, of U.S. foreign policy. Of course, the media is not going to tell you that, right? They're not going to tell you that. And on top of that, you have the intelligence services, especially the CIA, who wanted to kill bin Laden in the mid-1990s, but the Department of Defense didn't want to use the newly minted Pentagon drone program because the CIA was undergoing a public image change, and as well as the Department of Defense saying, "Oh, we're not a bunch of assassins." Meanwhile, they're doing what they're told by a State Department that's corrupt. And after 9/11, all the fucking gloves are off. Nobody gives a shit about rules and regulations. We're allowed to kill anybody because we're fighting a war on terrorism, even if we have to fund terrorism to get rid of terrorism. Does that even make fucking sense? I don't know what to tell you, but that happened in Syria, by the way, and Libya. So, Jesus Christ, the media is missing a lot of holes.
Factories,
He was building National Islamic Front.
Even more important, he built training camps in Sudan, launching a wave of Islamic terror. The 1995 attempted assassination of Egypt's President Mubarak. The bomb that killed 5 American soldiers in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, 5 months later. And NBC News has learned bin Laden helped plan the Khobar Towers bombing last year that killed 19 American servicemen in Saudi Arabia.
He was not the terrorist per se. He's the guy in the background pulling the strings.
But bin Laden has also targeted the U.S., the World Trade Center.
Yeah, went to investigate the Khobar Towers. Director Louis Freeh went to Saudi Arabia and tried to get information about the terrorists involved with that. And Saudi Arabians basically arrested a couple of people and said, "Here they are," and we executed them. So much for your investigation. It's alleged that Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri had been congratulating bin Laden about the attacks on the Khobar Towers. But take that with a grain of salt.
American officials tell NBC News they have evidence he provided money and safe haven for the bombers.
According to CIA sources, the mastermind...
Not necessarily true. He actually gave, I think, lawyer fees to help with the trial involved with that, but he wasn't directly involved with that.
Ramzi Youssef stayed in bin Laden's guest house before and after the bombing. And when Youssef was arrested, whose name and address were in his pocket? Bin Laden's.
Incredibly, despite a worldwide dragnet, bin Laden still meets with his lieutenants in the West, frequently slipping in and out of London. But his chief target remains what he calls the occupying U.S. enemy, the American soldier in Saudi Arabia. Bin Laden wrote, efforts should be pooled to kill him, fight him, destroy him, lie in wait for him.
Rich, determined, global, and absolutely against the democratic process.
Hey, he's just described the CIA. And that's absolutely correct. John Deutsch. But the CIA basically could be anti-democratic. Look what they did in Iran in 1953. And, terrorism, well, the CIA is involved with numerous acts of terrorism. In fact, they actually fund terrorism when it suits their agendas. And like I said, with Syria, under Timber Sycamore, they fucking gave funding and training to, along with Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, to Syrian jihadists, foreign jihadists, to help overthrow Bashar al-Assad. Under the Obama administration, they basically helped to depose Muammar Gaddafi, who, by the way, just so happens to be the first world leader to enact an arrest warrant on Osama Bin Laden. The United States didn't even do that.
Major threat.
A major threat.
That is what scares U.S. officials. the new partnership between ancient hatreds and the modern technology that bin Laden's millions can buy. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
The media will tell you just, little bits of the narrative, right? But it's selective. And they don't, you can't really blame them for like, oh, they're just telling you all lies. You would know it right away. In fact, they don't do it like that. What they do is they basically give you a little bit of information, actionable intelligence, right? But it's basically, you really know it's general information. It's not really covert information. This ain't like the news of the 1960s and 50s anymore, right? Corporate agencies and agents, and as well as the intelligence services and even the Department of the Army, have their stake within propagating, manipulating the public mindset through propaganda. That's not a conspiracy theory; it's actual fact. Now it's even worse, and now they have a bunch of imbeciles, actually, bimbos and idiot men that tell you, what's the ruse of the day and what's news. And basically, it's all gossip and hearsay. That's what they consider news. In fact, they yell at each other every once in a while because the American public is becoming so desensitized and so dumb that they don't realize what's true from what's false anymore. And soon, these are going to be the people that are going to be attacking each other, thinking they're each other than the enemy. Well, that's happening right now, actually. All right, guys, that's the end of this video. Thank God.